Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a big board draft over on Underdog Fantasy. This is a 20-round half PPR best ball draft. If you are new to best ball, it's very similar to redraft, aside from the fact that there are no waivers. So you do a 20-round draft, and the computer over at Underdog will automatically put in the best lineup for you in every single week, all the way through the playoffs. So if you're looking at the roster down here, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, flex, as well as 12 bench spots. So you don't even have to make any decision. The computer at the end of the week will automatically put your highest scores into your lineup. This tournament is near filling. It is $200,000 to first place and only $10 to enter. If you're brand new to Underdog Fantasy and you click on the link in the video description down below, you'll receive a $100 first match deposit bonus. So you deposit $100, they give you an additional $100. If you deposit $50, you'll get an additional $50. So it's just up to a $100 first match deposit bonus. We're going to be doing a draft on here right now, but make sure before we get on into things, if you end up enjoying, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. I appreciate all you guys. So without further ado, let's get into today's big board fantasy football best ball draft. All right, so the draft begins at number 1 with Christian McCaffrey. We are the number 5 overall pick in this draft. While I know the consensus of the past in fantasy football is that the running back is the number 1 overall pick, right? Everyone loves to get that workhorse running back at number 1 overall. But honestly, based upon how I've seen drafts go this year thus far, especially in best ball, the wide receiver goes to the 101 basically every single time. So I get the idea of trying to be unique going with the running back at the 101, but I do think I would much rather have Justin Jefferson over Christian McCaffrey. So after McCaffrey, we see Justin Jefferson followed by Jamar Chase, one more pick, and then we are going to be up. Again, we are so early in the fantasy football offseason, right? We haven't even had the NFL draft happen yet. So obviously, there's going to be a big difference in ADP as well as kind of draft strategy as the offseason goes along. AJ Brown at the 104, definitely a little bit of a reach to me. I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill at this pick. It is very close for me between Tyreek Hill and Cooper Kupp. Now, Cooper Kupp obviously has the upside to be the wide receiver number 1 this season, and it would not shock me even 1 ounce, right? Cooper Kupp is so fucking good. And even last year when Matthew Stafford was playing terribly, even then, Cooper Kupp was still dominating 50 Shades of Grey style in fantasy football. So again, even with Matthew Stafford coming back, I don't know if he necessarily should come back due to his injury, but he's going to come back. Even if he doesn't play the best, I could still see Cooper Kupp having a fantastic season. And I know you might be like, Nick, you can say the same thing about Tyreek Hill, right? Who knows how good Tua is going to be, this, that, and the other thing. I just feel more confident, I guess, in the backup play of the Dolphins quarterback. So, like, if Tua was to go down, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, that I think Magic Mike White could step up and have Tyreek Hill play good, right? I'm just not sure that's going to be the case with Cooper Kupp with a backup quarterback in LA. Now, again, Cooper Kupp is so good, this might just be a nonsense argument to be had, right? I'm probably arguing with the wall right now because, you know, it's not a crazy, outlandish take to have Tyreek over Cooper Kupp. After Cooper Kupp, we see Travis Kelce, Stephon Diggs, Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams, and CeeDee Lamb. So again, this is something I have tried to reiterate a ton in these best ball draft videos, is that while this draft is for money, right? It's for $10. We talked about that off the rip of the video. People draft differently in best ball compared to redraft. In redraft, despite the fact that in best ball, we are seeing wide receivers go heavy in the first round, you should not be shocked at all if Saquon Barkley is a first round pick, if Bijan Robinson is a first round pick, even some of these running backs that I don't even love, like in the first round. Like, there's no way I am taking Kenneth Walker in the first round. There's no way I'm taking Derrick Henry in the first round. But don't be shocked at all if come late August, come early September, when you're doing your fantasy football draft, if someone in your league takes Derrick Henry or even Nick Chubb, if the hype train comes back up about Tony Pollard. Like, don't be shocked if these guys go in the first round, because while it's not happening right now in these best ball drafts, it is very possible that the bias that people have in fantasy football about loving running backs just continues into the 2023 fantasy football season, and the running backs just fly off of the board. People have requested me to do a redraft mock draft, and we are going to be doing those. this offseason. Don't worry, it's just not going to be all best ball drafts. But right now, it's March 27th, right? We're getting close to the NFL draft, but the ADPs on these other websites are just so off that I feel like doing a draft like that, just doing a redraft, mock draft against the computer, is basically useless at this point. So after Saquon Barkley, we see Bijan Robinson, Garrett Wilson, Josh Allen, Kenneth Walker, and Patrick Mahomes. We're going to be seeing quarterbacks go a lot early on in drafts this offseason. Jalen Waddle coming off the board as well. He would have been my pick. I am perfectly happy here just going with Amon-Ra St. Brown here. I know obviously Jared Goff isn't the best quarterback on earth. You could debate going maybe Titty Boy T. Higgins or Devontae Smith, Chris Olave there, but ultimately I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is the most talented wide receiver out of that grouping, and he is in my opinion, the best scenario. He is the number one wide receiver on the Detroit Lions. They're going to continue to force feed this man the rock, and again, he's another guy that you wouldn't be shocked, or at least I wouldn't be shocked if come the end of the fantasy football season, if Amon-Ra St. Brown was a top 3 wide receiver in fantasy football, even with the emergence of Jameson Williams. After Amon-Ra, we see Devontae Smith and 9-inch Nicholas Chubb. So our draft, we started double wide receiver. I think that is going to be a very typical start for fantasy football drafts, especially in best ball this season. In redraft, again, the running backs are going to go a lot higher. It's interesting to see where Travis Kelce's ADP is going to sit in redraft by late August, early September, right? Because while it seems like everyone unanimously is crowning Travis Kelce as the clear tight end number 1, are people really going to want to pay the 6th, the 7th pick on Kelce when guys like Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Cooper Kupp could potentially be available? I'm just not too sure about that. This guy obviously goes with the Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes stack. After Devontae Smith, 9-inch Nicholas Chubb, Breece Hall, T. Higgins, and Chris Olave. So today, kind of pivoting off of the draft, we're obviously going to be talking about the draft, talking about some NFL news as well. Lamar Jackson has put out a statement that, hey, I requested a trade. I believe it was on March 2nd, early March, for all intensive purposes of getting things correct. And he wants out of Baltimore. Obviously, what team will he go to? I'm not sure. It doesn't seem like the Ravens want to get rid of him. So this is a very tough situation to kind of read from the outside looking in because we don't necessarily know what's happening. So Jalen Hurts comes off the board. I don't think Justin Fields is worthy of a 3rd-round pick. So Metcalf, Jacobs, Etienne, Debo, Hopkins, and Stevenson. I'm just going to go with Josh Jacobs here. Again, will Josh Jacobs have the exact same season he had last year? More than likely, probably not, right? That season was out of this world, but could he be a top 10 running back? Could he be worthy of a 3rd-round pick? Definitely. I think this Raiders offense, the change from Jimmy Garoppolo to Derek Carr or from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo is very minuscule, right? It's like that Spider-Man pointing meme where Spider-Man is pointing at the other Spider-Man is basically the exact same thing. 2 pretty mid quarterbacks, so I think Josh Jacobs should be just fine. I was really off of Josh Jacobs last year. I've talked about this a lot. Jacobs was a guy that was going into the Josh McDaniels system. I thought Josh McDaniels loves. He's enamored with the running back by committee. And then last year, they obviously just didn't use a running back by committee, and we saw Josh Jacobs flourish in that system. After Jacobs, Stevenson, DK Metcalf, Justin Fields, DeAndre Hopkins, and Travis Etienne. So we just talked about Justin Fields. Again, I like the player Justin Fields. When I say I don't think he's worth a 3rd-round draft pick, it's not me pulling my pants down, taking a dump on the chest of Justin Fields. What I'm saying is that I just don't feel like he's worth the 3rd-round draft capital. He could easily be the quarterback 1, but I don't feel like I need to pull the trigger on him. Like, all these early quarterbacks, I love Mahomes, I love Josh Allen, I love Jalen Hurts, I like Joe Burrow, I like Justin Fields. But in reality, am I going to be happy looking back at my draft, having drafted a quarterback that highly? I would rather just wait and hope I find the next. You know, Jalen Hurts wasn't being drafted super highly last year. Justin Fields wasn't being drafted super highly last year, right? I would rather take my shot from 3, Stephen Curry style, and hope that I just draft that guy that becomes a 2nd or 3rd-round draft pick, 4th-round draft pick next year, right? That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to just blow my draft capital load early on, especially like this, drafting Burrow and Justin Herbert. I get why people say, oh, it makes sense in best ball, in redraft. That is an outstandingly bad strategy. That is a terrible garbage strategy. Justin Fields, Amari Cooper, and Calvin Ridley. So we're going to be back up on the board here inside of the 4th round. Again, back to Lamar Jackson, who just got selected. Don't think he's going to be a Raven. What team is he going to be on? I mean, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers, it seems to be like one of these teams is getting cold feet. Like, they don't want to pay up the 2 first-round pick draft capital. Will the Jets just say virtual Heisman post stiff arm Aaron Rodgers? Could they stiff arm the Packers and then go with Lamar Jackson? Maybe. Certainly be an interesting landing spot. I think that's going to greatly affect Mark Andrews because, look, Mark Andrews can do it with any quarterback, but we don't know who the quarterback's going to be. And without Lamar Jackson, like, I don't know if you can really be like pick 39.6. Like, there's no way I'm taking Mark Andrews at that pick. So we're back up on the board here. It is the 4th round. Najee Harris still available. Think he's going to bounce back. Jerry Jeudy, Christian Watson. Jeudy might be on the way out. Drake London, Michael Pittman. This time we're going to go with Michael Pittman. I have a lot of Christian Watson in this scenario. There are a lot of people that have commented on my channel that say, oh, Michael Pittman sucks, blah, blah, blah. And sure, Michael Pittman might not be the second coming of fucking Randy Moss or something, but what Michael Pittman has that a lot of these wide receivers don't have in this range is that they are the clear alpha on the team. He is the clear number 1 wide receiver on his team, and he keeps getting peppered with targets. Now, the quarterback is going to change in 2023. I assume they draft a quarterback and things look a lot better for Michael Pittman, who I'm very excited about in 2023. Again, just strictly from a volume standpoint, I think he is going to be peppered with targets, Salt Bay style, game in and game out. My nose is incredibly itchy right now, but that is besides the fact. So after we went with Michael Pittman Jr., Mark Andrews, Jerry Jeudy, Jackson Smith, and Najigba, Christian Watson, Drizzy, Drake London, Terry McLaurin, and Godwin. Would have liked to get JSN here coming back. I thought maybe he would fall back to me. Obviously, rookie hasn't been drafted yet. Based upon his landing spot, his ADP could change drastically, but we obviously don't know that yet. So now Keenan Allen comes off the board. George Kittle still available. Najee Harris, Christian Kirk, Jameson Williams. Could go heavy on Detroit, but I don't necessarily want to do that this early on in the draft. So we're just going to go best player available. I was really off of Tyler Lockett last year. Lockett was still just as good, basically, with Geno Smith as he was with Russell Wilson. Again, I don't think Geno Smith is going to be as good as he was last year, but I think Geno Smith is a good enough quarterback to where Tyler Lockett should be just fine. He has that weekly 25-plus point upside. And again, this is a 3 wide receiver draft, so, and it has a flex as well. So Tyreek, Amon-Ra, Michael Pittman, Tyler Lockett could be in my lineup every single game. And this is kind of the running back zone where things start to get incredibly gross. Dalvin Cook, will he be back with the Vikings? Will he not be back with the Vikings? Who knows? But we saw a huge downswing in production out of Dalvin Cook. Now, obviously, he technically scored more fantasy points, but if you look back at his season last year, it was incredibly gross. It was bad. Jahmyr Gibbs, obviously, rookie. We don't know what team he's going to land on. That could heavily change his draft capital for fantasy football. He could be a guy that's going in the 5th, 6th round right now, and then we come back to things in August, and he is like a 3rd round fantasy pick based upon landing spot. Aaron Jones obviously comes back to the Packers. We don't know too much about Jordan Love. How good will Jordan Love be? But Aaron Jones I still think is a pretty good value in the 5th, 6th round. But again, these running backs are kind of gross. Swift, I like Swift the player. I love Swift the player. Problem is they bring in David Montgomery. So that's not very exciting. Again, these running backs are kind of gross in this range, so I get why people like loading up running backs early on. So after we had Lockett, Najee Harris, Jameson Williams, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, Trevor Lawrence, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, I simply cannot talk myself into Gabe Davis again. Just can't do it. I get the upside. I get it. I fully understand it. But it just, like, last year, it was hell trying to figure out when to play Gabe Davis. Terrible. And he didn't even have all those huge performances. It seems like Gabe Davis only gives a shit about the playoffs because that's the only time the guy fucking shows up. Brandon Ayuk, Deontay Johnson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Dalvin Cook coming off the board at this point. So again, Jahmyr Gibbs' ADP could change drastically. Dameon Pierce. They also brought in another running back. For some reason, his name is escaping me. It's Devin Singletary. Look, I mean, Devin Singletary doesn't scare me away from Dameon Pierce, but do I want to draft a running back where I know Devin Singletary is going to get work? I just know, and it just makes me less excited about Dameon Pierce. Again, like Swift, I'm excited about the player Swift is, but not the situation. I think Miles Sanders makes a little bit more sense next round in Carolina. Man, I know somehow, some way I'm going to galaxy brain myself into talking myself into Kadarius Toney. I just don't know if I could pull the trigger now in the 6th round. Because if he's the wide receiver 1 in Kansas City, and if he's able to stay healthy, now saying if he could stay healthy is basically impossible, but if he does stay healthy, like there's a way he just completely smashes. But I just don't see myself doing it in the 6th round. Like I don't see myself pulling the trigger. I can't pull the trigger on Kyle Pitts either. This range is so gross at running back. I'm just going to go with Aaron Jones. Like, again, A.J. Dillon is back, so it's not like Aaron Jones is like this workhorse running back on the team, but it's the 6th round. He's my RB number 2. It's almost the 7th round, and again, I don't think Jordan Love's amazing. It would be crazy for the Packers to go on a run where they have Favre, who's amazing, Rodgers, who's amazing, and then somehow land Jordan Love, who's now amazing, right? That would be a crazy run to have all back to back to back. So I don't know if that's going to happen, but like it's not like he's some garbage can quarterback who can't elevate his team to have decent fantasy performances. So Treylon Burks, Darren Waller. Interesting to see Waller go ahead of Pitts. Obviously now with the Giants, not the Raiders. Waller's another guy that just can't stay healthy, but when he's healthy, he does have that upside. So again, I'm not shitting on Waller. I'm not saying that Waller's a bad pick. I just don't know if I'd pick him above Pitts, who, again, Pitts, they bring in Jonnu Smith to the Atlanta Falcons. Their quarterback kind of situation is definitely up in the air. We don't know who their quarterback is going to be, but I don't think it's necessarily bad to take Pitts in the 6th round, right? This is like the cheapest he's been. He was going ahead of the 6th. He was like a 5th round fantasy pick in his rookie year, and rookie tight ends are never fantasy valuable. Now he's going in the 6th round, the 7th round in some drafts. So I definitely get it. We're kind of falling into a range where so many wide receivers went. Pete Overzet kind of calls this the wide receiver avalanche, where so many wide receivers have went that now we're just basically looking at all running backs, and the running backs are, again, not the guys that I'm in love with. If I knew that the Chiefs weren't going to draft a running back, I would be elated to select Isaiah Pacheco. I just would be, but it wouldn't shock me if they took another running back. Pickens, gross. I almost would rather just draft Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison. Just take these shots on these young receivers. I've done it in a lot of these videos. We're doing these best ball drafts because if Jordan Addison lands in the perfect spot, if Quentin Johnston lands in the perfect spot, Zay Flowers lands in the perfect spot. There was rumors that Zay Flowers might be the wide receiver 1 in this class for some teams. Now I don't know how true that is. It's just a rumor. But like Quentin Johnston, if he lands in the perfect spot and I select him right here, he could end up being a 5th round pick, right? So it's very interesting. That's what's so fun about these early drafts, especially before the NFL draft, right? Because once the NFL draft happens, people will have these hot takes. They will love Quentin Johnston. Oh, my phone just fell. Sorry, that was a little bit loud. But they will love Quentin Johnston in the 5th round and in the 6th round, right? Or they might hate him, right? They might say, hey, Nick, you dumb bastard. You drafted him in the 7th round. Now he's like a 9th, 10th round pick, but that's just kind of the risk you take right here. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you've enjoyed thus far. Make sure you hit that like button as well. It helps me out a ton. So after Quentin Johnston, we see Miles Sanders and David Montgomery. Anytime you can draft both running backs on the team in the same round, you just got to do it, right? Right? And what this just tells me is that this situation is disgusting. That's what it tells me. Disgusting. How can 2 running backs on the same fucking team go in the same round? And it's not like it's like, oh, the 15th round and you're picking between, like, remember last year you're picking between the San Francisco running backs. Ooh, should I take Elijah Mitchell? Should I take Jordan Mason? Should I take Terry Davis-Price? No, this is in the 7th round. We're not even at pick 100 yet, and you're already taking the running backs on the same team? That's just like a clear sign that it's a bad decision to take either of them in that round. Like, I'd definitely rather have Swift. Taking Montgomery there is crazy. Brandon Cooks, Jahan Dotson, Evan Ingram, Cam Akers, Cortland Sutton, KJ Osborne. You smell that? smells like a fucking god-awful pick. What the fuck? Who in their right mind is taking KJ Osborne there? Now, we have punted the quarterback position. We are waiting. We are longly waiting for a quarterback. Love Goff. Did Goff already go? Love Goff since we have Amon-Ra. Tua turning the ball over coming off the board. My guy, Tua. Let's see here. Again, these running backs are gross. Like, could easily see the Bucs bringing someone else in. The Bills could easily bring someone else in. Khalil Herbert. Just disgusting. Let's just draft some more receivers. Again, let's just load up on these young guys. Jordan, Addison, Ray. I want a bad bitch, Addison Ray. Get him onto the squad again. These young guys that could just, their ADPs could shift so heavily. Beautiful selection there for us. And then we could wait. We can get Jared Goff. Maybe not with the next pick. What's our picks looking like here? Probably going to have to pull the trigger in the next round. It's going to look like a bit of a reach. But I don't know if we're going to be able to get him on the way back. Dak Prescott's still available. Deshaun Watson. Again, I don't think in redraft stacking is super important, but it really is important in order to win in best ball. Like, you need that stack to pop off in order to win. And Jared Goff to Amon-Ra is a pretty solid stack. Looking at the other Lions, like, sure, I'm fine drafting Brock Wright or James Mitchell with my last pick, but it's not like they're key proponents to the stack. Like, I would have much rather... I just can't reasonably pull the trigger on Jameson Williams after drafting Amon-Ra St. Brown, but that doesn't mean that I hate Jameson Williams. I just think, based on where I drafted Amon-Ra, drafting Jameson Williams like 3 picks later is just kind of crazy. Just kind of how I see things. Zach Charbonnet coming off the board. Khalil Herbert's going to smash if he is the guy. I think Elijah Moore's a little bit like, look, Elijah Moore hasn't shown anything in his NFL career. Does that mean that he's dust? No. But in the 9th round, I mean, I know a lot of the draft guys. Oh my God, Elijah Moore this, Elijah Moore that. I don't know. I kind of like Dalton Schultz in Houston, assuming they draft a quarterback. They bring someone in who's pretty competent. That's going to be fun. Can I reasonably take... There was talks about, not Kirk Cousins, Trey Lance. Today it just came out that the team believes that Brock Purdy is the guy right now, assuming the surgery goes well. So, pretty interesting. How many teams have quarterbacks? Some teams have 2 quarterbacks. Some teams have 0, 1. I mean, I would like to wait, but this is definitely a reach, but someone might have taken him before I got to pick again. Could also snag Geno for the good old Geno to Tyler Lockett connection. Again, drafting 2 quarterbacks super early like this makes no sense in redraft, but it does make sense in best ball. I do want Dalton Schultz, though. I think this year, again, we talked about this a little bit early on. Like, Kelsey is the clear number 1 guy. Would it surprise me if Kittle was the number 2 guy? Hawkinson, Andrews, Pitts, Goddard, Waller, Ingram, like any of these guys could be the number 2 guy. So I don't, like, while I love Kelsey, I think once you get past Kelsey, I'm not sitting there fucking shaking like, oh, I need to draft a tight end, right? Because I'll rate a couple rounds. Like, even if I don't get any of these guys, again, I like Dalton Schultz. I think Dalton Schultz in the perfect scenario, like in Houston with a real quarterback, could smash. Could break fantasy football. I love Penny too. I wish we knew. I've been a Rashad Penny guy my whole life. I'm a big Rashad Penny guy. If I knew that the Eagles weren't going to bring anyone else in, like, I could see Penny dominating. Damian Harris's ADP is screaming up the board. We only have 2 running backs, so eventually we're just going to have to smash a bunch more. But with this draft strategy, right, we know we love these receivers, aside from Johnston and Addison, who are kind of unknowns. But we love these receivers. And these 2 running backs are like the anchor to our roster. And I like Jared Goff a little bit more than most people do. I know he doesn't have the crazy rushing upside, right? I know Jared Goff isn't going to have that crazy game where he busts off like some huge run. But I still think he's worth it. And I think we can snag 3 quarterbacks. Like, we get Bryce Young. Bryce Young has that rushing upside. Bryce Young could be Dalton Schultz's quarterback in Houston. Seems like the number 1 pick's going to be CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud is like as safe as it gets. He's like wrapping 2 condoms around your NFL roster. You know that he's got the build. He's not 5'10" or however tall Bryce Young is, right? He's not short. He's the prototypical pocket passer. He makes the correct passes. He doesn't make these stupid decisions. So I get why the Panthers might draft him. But if I was the Panthers, I'm drafting Bryce Young. I'm taking the shot on the guy that's a little shorter. I'm taking the shot on the guy that makes these electric plays. That's what I'm doing. Might be wrong. Might be a wrong thought process, but that's what I'm doing. Again, I think Geno is going to regress. But even if he just drops 280 fantasy points and he has these big games with Lockett and he's going interspliced in and out with Jared Goff, like I'm pretty excited about that. But I might have to pay the piper, as they say, and get my guy Rashad Penny. I've fallen back in love with Penny again. I think he could easily be the #1 running back on Philly. And if he could stay healthy, I mean, last year when he was healthy, he was looking good in Seattle. Problem is, he just can never stay healthy. That's the problem. But we're drafting him. We're doing it. Problem with Lazard, who just came off the board. Like, look, I get, Rodgers, this, that, and the other thing. I get it. Cool. Fun. If Rodgers goes there. What has Allen Lazard done to make me want to draft him in the 10th round? What has he done? Like, let's pull up the list of Jets receivers, right? Garrett Wilson's the clear #1 guy. Would it surprise anyone if McCole Hardman outscored Allen Lazard? Would it surprise you an ounce? An inkling if McCole Hardman outscored Allen Lazard? Would it surprise you? Because it wouldn't surprise me. And McCole Hardman is pick 190, which is essentially free. You have to draft Allen Lazard. Going around guys like, let's see, where did Lazard go? I don't love Donovan Peoples-Jones, but and these wide receivers aren't necessarily the sexiest. But look, if Odell lands in a spot and he's healthy week 1, Odell will fucking eat him for Lazard for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Wan'Dale Robinson, if he's the guy, could eat him for breakfast. Like, Wan'Dale could be the #1 receiver on the Giants, and you are drafting a guy who might be the #2 receiver on the Jets, and we don't even know Rodgers is coming for sure. It's just disgusting. Just gross. All right, so we're back up on the board. Dawson Knox one time for with me. Sky with 2 eyes more. Kenneth Gainwell could also be better than Penny. I'm not going to say that that's impossible. Some people don't have tight ends. People with a decent amount of quarterbacks. I don't think Geno's going to fall back to us, but I'm going to go Dalton Schultz. Again, I think Dalton Schultz is a great player. I think in the correct situation, he could flourish. I think it's the 11th round. I think I like him in terms of skill set. Like, who is the most skilled tight end that was available? I think he's more skilled than Kmet. I think he's more skilled than Knox and Freiermuth, and I'm getting him in the 10th round. So that's just how the cookie crumbles there. I think Geno might have been the smarter pick, but once you wait past these guys, like, I know I'm going to have to draft more tight ends, right? You don't just leave the draft with one tight end. But I feel miles more confident in Dalton Schultz compared to Chig or Dulcich or Hill or Jawan Johnson or Michael Mayer, right? And we might see Chig come off in a couple picks. And I'm not saying that Chig Okonkwo is a bad pick, but I feel miles more confident with Dalton Schultz. Just so much more confident. Rodgers coming off the board. We did kind of reach on Goff, but it is what it is. Lance, again, we just kind of brought this up a little bit ago. Lance, they're talking about Purdy in such a great way. Now, again, they traded all these picks for Trey Lance, for this project quarterback. His fantasy upside is out the wazoo, as they say, right? It's crazy. What Trey Lance could become is he could be the Jalen Hurts. He could be this guy that comes out of nowhere, like an RKO from Randy Orton, and is the league winner for fantasy football, right? So I'm not saying that's impossible. I'm not saying that that is something that is out of the ordinary, because it's very possible. But what I'm saying is that I think that in this scenario that we're in right now, the 10th round seems a little high for a guy we don't even know is going to be the starting quarterback come week 1. I think that's a little high. Now, again, I understand the upside. The drafts are about to fill. I said off the rip of the video, 91.3%, right? These drafts are filling soon. So maybe this looks like a huge discount come a couple months from now when he's like a 6th-round pick. Maybe. Or maybe he becomes like a 15th-round pick because people start panicking. Right? So that's kind of how I think of things. I think Derek Carr is a perfectly fine pick. Kyler's a guy I really stayed away from. I like the player Kyler. It's just when he got hurt, the situation he's in, like it seems like the Cardinals want to get rid of D-Hop. It doesn't seem like he's going to be in the best offense. They don't have the greatest offensive line. Like, would it shock me if the Cardinals were, say, 0-7 or 1-6, 2-5, and it's week 8 and Kyler's looking to come back, and they say, you know what, we brought in this new head coach from Philly. Let's just sit him down. Let's just sit him down. Let him ride the pine. Let's make sure he's healthy for 2024. Would it shock me even one iota if we see that happen and we don't see Kyler at all in 2023? The answer would be no. It would not shock me one bit. Now, again, am I saying that's the most likely outcome? No, I think the most likely outcome is that we see Kyler this year. But I think we see a watered-down version of Kyler. And when you're missing potentially 5, 6, 7, 8 games, do I want to draft you in the 12th round? Now, Bryce Young might show up to a team and not even fucking start all year, right? And then people come back and say, Nick, you're a dumbass. You should have just drafted Kyler. But I'm taking the upside on the young quarterback with the rushing upside, with the youth coming into the season healthy, potentially getting drafted with uber high draft capital, potentially going to the Texans with that new head coach, with a head coach that I like, with Dalton Schultz, with weapons in Houston, right? The Texans have weapons. The Texans have Nico Collins. Now, again, Nico Collins isn't the greatest thing since sliced fucking bread. They have John Mechie, who they drafted early out in the 2022 draft, right? They have these cheap pieces. And when you try to uncover what is going to be this crazy winning best ball team, to me, what could be a crazy winning best ball team is Bryce Young, fucking Dalton Schultz, Nico Collins dropping their cocks into the mouths of others who don't take these shots, right? These are these late round pieces that you get. They're not free, right? I understand they're not free, but they're these late pieces with upside. I love that. And I think that could be league winning. Kareem Hunt, interesting to see where he's going to go. Devin off the chain. Raheem screaming up the board. Very interesting draft so far. Very interesting. Haven't drafted a wide receiver in a hot minute. Need to draft some running backs as well. But I'm fine waiting where we're at here. We'll go Raheem. My boy Raheem, the dream, staying with the Dolphins. I think it's pretty locked in that the Dolphins are going to go in with the 1-2 punch again of Mostert and Jeff Wilson. Pick your poison. You might say, Nick, I prefer Jeff Wilson. I'm not going to have an argument with you. I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm excited for what the Dolphins have to come. I hope we bring in another offensive lineman. Our offensive line could end up being the death of Tua. Metaphorically, I don't think he's going to die in the field, but metaphorically, it could be the end, the stab in the back of the Dolphins offense, right? But the Dolphins defense is so good. I think a lot late in games, I think, with how good this Dolphins defense is. I've seen metrics. Now, again, I'm not necessarily the most metric-centric guy, but I've seen these statistics that say that with Vic Fangio, with Jalen Ramsey, with this defense that the Dolphins have built, that the Dolphins have the best defense in the National Football League. Now, again, I'm a Dolphins fan, so people say, Nick, you're glazing. Nick, you're sucking the metaphorical, you're stroking on the cock of the Dolphins. And, of course, I love the Dolphins. But anyone who's been watching this channel since its infancy, since my infancy, right? I started this, I was 19. I'm about to be 24, right? I'm much older in time, and I still have just as much fun doing this. I really love you guys, so I try to bring this up a bunch. You guys, the people who are watching right now, people who even just watch for 10 minutes, they're the reason why this is able to happen. They're the reason why, come August, this channel is going to be as big as it is, and I believe in that because I believe in myself, and I believe that I produce content that's good, that people like, and I believe that you guys are going to keep watching because you like it. And because it's fun, right? We're not the most analytical-based channel. I said that. And I'm not a huge analytics guy. I look at the analytics. I'm not saying that I just avoid them all, but I'm not just going to pull out some crazy stats out my asshole. But the Dolphins defense statistically looks good. And what my point of what I was saying was, if you were watching years ago when the Dolphins were bottom of the barrel, getting their back blown out every single game, I wasn't sitting here saying, oh, you got to draft all these Dolphins players. I was never saying that. I said it last year because I believed in the offense, and I'm going to say it again because I believe in the offense. I was all aboard the Tyreek Hill Dolphins train. When people were fading Tyreek Hill because, oh, he's going to be away from Patrick Mahomes, I said, fuck it. He's still going to be great. I said Jalen Waddle's going to be great, and I'm saying it again. It's an easier take now. It's a more palatable take. I loved Gaskin last year. That was wrong. But Dolphins do have good running backs now. Gaskin was bad. I don't know if I loved Gaskin last year. I did not love Gaskin last year. That was 2 years ago. I loved Chase Edmonds last year. What a fall from grace that was. I'll throw the board on the screen here. We haven't thrown the board up in a little bit, so you can take a look-see at that if you want to. I know people have pointed out that they want to see the draft board more. Perfectly normal take. I just like talking about a bunch of different random things while we're drafting. Quarterbacks, nothing that I love. Nothing that I love here. We're going to draft another quarterback. We're probably just going to take like Baker or something. Tight ends, gross at this point, but we're going to need more. Running backs aren't amazing. Let's get Nico Collins. We talked it up. Maybe we'll get the Bryce Young, Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz stack. And again, we're hinging upon Jacobs and Aaron Jones being those guys that every week are putting up the points. Josh Jacobs especially. And then Aaron Jones, Rashad Penny, Raheem Mostert, they kind of all cycle in as the RB2. This is what we call I think people call it different things. Some people call this the workhorse running back strategy. There's a bunch of different strategies it's called. I'm trying to think, the hero running back. But we did wait. Our team is right here. We took him in the 3rd round, the anchor running back. So I guess this technically isn't the anchor running back. It's like a later anchor running back strategy. But I still think it applies. We have that anchor, Josh Jacobs, and then we're just cycling the other running backs in here. And then our wide receiver core, again, Tyreek, Amon-Ra, Pittman, and Lockett. I'm very confident in those guys. And then Quentin Johnston might take a while because he's young. Jordan Addison might take a while, but at some point in the season, I think they're going to have the upside to be top 10 guys. Nico Collins. Say what you want about Nico Collins, but I think he's in a good spot. Now, again, no one's going to want to load up on the Houston Texans. Maybe I'm wrong. Bryce Young isn't even their starting quarterback, but push comes to shove, and this ends up being correct. We're going to have a large stack of a team that I think people are going to talk themselves into. Now, obviously, the Texans are a gross team, so maybe just the idea, like you imagine just looking at the Texans logo, you might just get grossed out, right? You might want to close your eyes, not be able to see Stevie Wonder style, but I think some of the sharper people talk themselves into it, and we're getting early there. Again, the tight ends at this point are fucking rancid, but we do need multiple tight ends. But we're probably just going to go running back here. I think that's our best strategy here. Running back. Jalen Warren, if something happens to... We're going to do it. I don't think they're going to draft another running back, and I think if something was to happen to Najee Harris, knock on wood, we don't root for injuries, I think that Jalen Warren is one of the better handcuffs in fantasy football. We know the Steelers want to use a workhorse running back under Mike Tomlin. They want to use one guy. So it's not like if Najee goes down that they're going to go to Warren and some other back, right? They're not going to do that. They're going to go to Jalen Warren. And I think this Pittsburgh Steelers offense is going to take a leap up. I'm shocked that they brought back Matt Canada, but I think the offense is going to look better. So if Najee goes down, and again, we're not rooting for Najee to go down. I love Najee Harris. But if something was to happen, would it be shocking at all if Jalen Warren ended up having multiple top 10 running back performances if something was to happen to Harris? No, it would not shock me. I like Tank Bigsby as well. Again, I think these rookies, depending on where they go, their ADP is going to skyrocket. So maybe drafting a guy like Tank Bigsby, who are pretty big on, would have been a better move, but we shall see. We do need a tight end. If Everett stays in LA with the Chargers, he has that upside. Isaiah Likely. I think Hayden Hurst would probably be my favorite out of this group besides Gerald Everett. Hayden Hurst has proved that regardless of what team he's on, he has upside. Now, again, he's not going to be a smash play every single week. We're hoping Schultz is. But when we draft 3 tight ends like this, and it's a best ball draft where we're not necessarily every week, you're not setting the lineup, right? Whatever the best score is on our lineup is what's going to go in. So I think Hayden Hurst is a relatively fine pick. We're going to need 3 tight ends. I think this is a 3 quarterback, 3 tight end type of build that we need here. The quarterbacks are kind of gross, but like, could Brock Purdy, who just went, like, Brock Purdy could have been a solid pick. I don't love Mac Jones. I think Baker's probably the best pick here because the offense that he has around him, I don't think Baker's that great. I don't think the Bucks are even going to be great, but I think they're going to be down a lot in games. They're going to have to throw, and I think Baker could be good in that scenario. But we're certainly not drafting him here at this pick. Leonard Fournette could end up being a solid pick depending on where he goes. Late on in drafts, obviously, these are just dart throws, obviously. Like, I'm not having, like, some super strong take on any of these guys. Like, I love this guy because, again, while I love talking about sleepers in fantasy football, this is a best ball draft, right? This is the 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th round, right? In redraft leagues, there is no 16th, 17th. Like, there's 15 rounds normally. There's a kicker and defense also included. So we are deep in the pool right now of drafting players. We are balls deep down here. I like Hurst, but again, I don't know if we have to draft him here. Actually, you know what? We will because Hayden Hurst, this guy doesn't have a tight. He only has 1 tight end, so I think it's possible that we miss him. So we're gonna go ahead and draft Hayden Hurst at that pick, and then draft another one later. So we have the 17th, 18th, 19th, and 20th round. We have 4 picks left. Probably just gonna get one of every position at this point. We need another receiver. We need another tight end. We need another running back. I think the running backs are really going to fall off soon to where I want to get Tank Bigsby. Tank Bigsby went to Auburn. He is a good player. He ran behind a bad offensive line and was still productive. So I think given he goes to the NFL, he's given an opportunity to potentially become the guy. He could, because he ran well behind a bad offensive line, I think he could be really good at the NFL level. Now, again, you're just taking these shots. He might not even fucking play in his first year. He might be stuck in a situation where he's behind everyone, or maybe he just becomes someone who scores a bunch of touchdowns. His name is also sick. His name is Tank. So that makes me like him even more. So we have 6 picks up until our next pick. We're going to throw the board on the screen here. Some people like Miller better than Tank Bigsby. I'm more of a Tank Bigsby guy, but not going to have too much of an argument here. Again, we are in the 16th round of the draft. So Tank does end up getting picked. I did pause for a second because, again, we're so late in the draft. I just kind of want to speed things up a little bit. Zach Evans still available. Some people like him. Let's just go with him. Let's just get that rookie presence on our roster. And, again, we're so late in the draft that we're just going to fast forward to our next pick. All right, so we're back up again here. We're just going to go with the quarterback. Like I said, we're going with Baker. Baker, money maker, quarterback of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, again, Baker looked kind of good last year. I think he's going to be the starting quarterback of the Bucs. I think they're going to try to tank, but I think they're going to be down in games. They're going to be losing. They're going to be getting fucked up, and I think they're going to have to throw the ball a lot, and I think that's going to heavily be beneficial towards Baker having a great fantasy year. And again, I don't think when I say what I just said that he's going to be like this top fucking 10 quarterback in fantasy, not even probably top 20, but could he have like 3 good weeks and end up in my lineup? Yeah. There's a parade inside my city, yeah. All right, we need another receiver. There's rumors of Corey Davis getting moved. Let's go with Al Robinson. We haven't drafted him once. He literally sucked so bad last year, but I think he still has it in him to be decent. I mean, it is a 19th round pick. He is a little bit older. I don't know. Again, this late in the draft, you're kind of just taking shots in the dark. A shot, step back from 3 and hoping it lands. So maybe that'll end up being a shot that lands for us. Then we need another tight end. Literally any of the rookies could have been good. I think a lot of them already went, though. Pulling the board back up. Laporta went, I believe. He's a guy that I've seen get mocked to the Dolphins. Darnell Washington already went. So a lot of the main rookie guys that people are talking up already went. Kincaid obviously already went. Luke Musgrave. People are liking, again, I don't know how much I trust like a rookie tight end to be good because they just never are. Cade Otton could be good. This is like, again, this is just shooting a shot from the mountaintops like on a guy. Like O.J. Howard maybe in Las Vegas. Maybe this is the spot for him, right? Maybe O.J. Howard dominates in Las Vegas. I don't think so. But maybe. Maybe. You know, we're going to go with O.J. Howard. Jimmy Guap loves the tight ends. Let's go with O.J. Howard. Remember a couple years ago? I think I talked about this in the last draft video we did. Remember a couple years ago how good O.J. Howard was? Does anyone remember that? I wish I remembered exactly what year. Well, I'm going to look it up. O.J. Howard's stats, he was going crazy at one point in his career. Let's look it up. O.J. Howard. Some interesting tidbits of information here as we close out the draft. I've been recording for 50 minutes. I know the video isn't 50 minutes long, but pull up his stats. There was one season where he did really good. And it wasn't like he had like amazing stats. It was just like he had a solid stretch of games. It was probably 2018 where he had 48 targets, 34 receptions, 5 tugs, 565 yards. Like he started off his career good, 3 solid years, and then after that kind of just fell off. But we'll see here. Hendon Hooker, that's just a disgusting pick. That's just disgusting. But I guess I get it. Like people are drafting Mike White. Like I'd rather just take Gardner Minshew. Like Gardner Minshew might be the Colts starting quarterback for a couple of games. This guy has 4 quarterbacks. What an insane build. What an insane build. I think 3-6-9-2 is probably my favorite build, which is 3 quarterbacks, 6 running backs, 9 receivers, and 2 tight ends. But because of the tight ends we have, I think we should just draft a third. Just draft a third. These drafts are 20 rounds during this time period that we're drafting right now. But after the big board closes, it moves to 18-round drafts, which are a little bit, makes the video a little shorter. So our quarterbacks, our team here, actually we'll just wait because it's going to kick us out of here. And then we'll just pull the team back up. But we'll go with the quarterbacks first. We got Jared Goff, Bryce Young, and Baker Mayfield. Running backs, Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Rashad Penny, Raheem Mostert, Jalen Warren, and Zach Evans. Our receivers are Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Pittman, Tyler Lockett, Quentin Johnston, Jordan Addison, Nico Collins, and Allen Robinson. And our tight ends are Dalton Schultz, Hayden Hurst, and O.J. Howard, because the guy was taking forever to make his pick. So thank you guys all so much for watching today's video. I hope you did end up enjoying. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, that like button down below. Leave a comment, something something related to OJ. Maybe we talk about OJ Simpson. You could talk about OJ Howard, or maybe you want to talk about fucking orange juice from 2K, Michael B. Jordan. Love you guys. Hope you guys have a great day. And as always, good boy.